Do, 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 do. Hello, 3B. It is time for math class. And today we are going to be talking about multiplication and grouping. Now, I've been looking at the assignments, and I noticed that most of you have already completed the previous question about grouping. And if you don't remember it, that was the question where we talked about, the example was packages of bear paws. And we said if you had 8 packages of bear paws and each one contained 2 bear paws, what are some of the different ways we could use what we already know to figure out how many bear paws we have in total? So we talked about skip counting by twos, and we could skip count 8 times. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Skip counting 8 times. Or we could add 8 twos together. 2 plus 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 2, getting us to 16. We could also think in terms of the question of having 8 groups of 2 and using our physical counters to actually count those out and to either draw out or count out 8 groups of 2 items to solve the problem. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to take those strategies we already know and move into actually looking at multiplication questions, because what we've basically been doing there is solving multiplication questions just by writing them out in a longer way and using the information that we already had and the skills we already had to solve them. So now we're going to go right into multiplication. So our multiplication question we're going to start with, and we've got our little whiteboard, not as great as the classroom whiteboard, but it still works. And we are going to look at 2 times 6. So let's break down this question and think about the parts of it. In this question, the first number, the 2, represents how many items are in our group. So we're going to have groups of 2. So every group, there's 2 things in each group. The 6 represents how many groups. So the 6 represents how many groups that there actually are. So they're groups of 2. We know that in every group there's 2 items, and there are 6 groups of 2 items. So let's draw that out. I'm going to take my marker, and I am going to write out 6 groups of 2 items each. And it's going to look just like this. Let me get that clear on the camera. And we'll leave that there for a second for you to see. So you can see our 6 groups, and you can see in each group there are 2 items. So each of these represents one group of 2 items. From there, we can start to count up, and we can just count up how many are in each group. You can skip count by twos, or you can count individually. So we could count individually. We could start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or we could skip count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. To get our answer, which is 2 times 6 equals 12. Now, I'm doing this on the board, but remember that you can use any physical tools that you have at home to work this out. So if you have Lego pieces, if you have tiles or tokens or even dry beans or pieces of macaroni in the kitchen that your mom and dad say you can use, try those. And you can actually use them to physically count out, just like we do with the glass counters in the classroom. And you can try that. So let us try another question now that we've worked through that one. So in this one, we are going to be doing 3 times 5. So there's our question, 3 times 5. Now let's think, which of these numbers represents how many items are in each group? Take a moment to think about it. You can even say your answer out loud if you like. Right, so the 3 represents the items in each group, which means that the 5 has to represent how many groups we have. So start by drawing out space for 5 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to draw 3 items in each group. So there we go. I have got my 5 groups with 3 items in each group. Now, skip counting by 3s is not quite as easy for many of us as skip counting by 2s, but you can still try it. Or you can count up the numbers individually. So you can start 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 to get us our answer, which is 15. So that is what you're going to try today. In the instructions for this assignment, I have posted 3 different math questions, 3 different multiplication questions for you to try to solve. What I want you to do is try to solve those questions using the method I showed you here. If it is easier to write it out, you can write out the answers on a piece of paper, just the way I did with the whiteboard. If you're a person that needs to physically solve things, like I said, grab some Legos or tokens or whatever you have. You can even grab some Play-Doh or slime and divide it up into little pieces to help you count it out. And use those to help you solve the question, physically counting out the groups, and post your work. You can hand in your work in terms of typing out the numbers and typing out how you solve it. You can send me a photograph of your work. You can send me a photograph of counting out your physical counters. You can show me a photograph of your writing. If you're really confident, you can just write in words an explanation of how you solved it and what you did. But you have the option to choose the easiest way for you to solve these questions, whether it's writing, whether it's tokens, and you'll solve the 3 questions below. And once I see most folks have solved the questions below, we'll move on to talking about a few more of the really cool things that we can do with multiplication equations, because there is some neat little tips and tricks and patterns in our times tables that we can get into, and I can't wait to come back and show you that. So that is your work for now. Remember that if you have any questions at all, you have a few different ways of contacting me. You can contact me using the email and message system on Brightspace, and I check those several times a day, so I'll be here to answer your questions. If those are tricky for you, you can have your parents contact me on Class Dojo, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions on Class Dojo too. And those notifications go right to my phone, so I check those every day as well. And if neither of those ways are working, you can send me, your parents should have my email because I've been in email contact with most of your parents. So you can send me an email at my Peel Board email to ask any questions you have, and I'll do my best to answer those as fast as I can. So that is your math work for today. I can't wait to see what you come up with, and I will talk to you again soon. Au revoir.